message, so to think. So if you want to do a poll, you just count the votes. If you do a survey, you just count the votes again. And there's many different variations of it and so on. So we have, a lot of businesses, HDFC, ICICI, Bharti AXA, Airtel, and a few others are piloting it, and also in Southeast Asia, Middle East. So this one is a global product. We are just about preparing to do a lot of PR around it in January timeframe and so on.
So we are getting that early insight into the product.
Yes.
And I think your brain is manufactured in a way to create products which will always touch like thousands and millions of people. Right?
Yeah.
There is just no, a small group, you don't see that.
I think that's a good point, and I do, yes, I mean, I agree with that, and I do believe that, look, it's equally hard, okay, to do a to solve a small problem as it is to solve a big problem. It just takes the same amount of effort, it takes a ton of energy, frustration, etc., etc. So you might as well think of solving huge problems, because at least if it does succeed, right, there's a huge payoff at the end of it, or there's a lot of gratification in the number of lives touched and so on. So that's one part of it. The other part also is, when you think scale, it gives you more flexibility, right? Because if your target, if it can work for millions of users, then even if these 100,000 users don't like it, there's another 100,000 elsewhere, right? But you build it for a really small niche audience, I think then it gives you that much less room for maneuverability. And startups, I mean, entrepreneurs need all the, the flexibility as you iterate for the product, the features, the target segments, and things like that. So absolutely, if there's one bit of advice I can give, I mean, it's certainly, think of solving big problems and solving it in scalable ways. And if you do that, then, I think that can be huge.
Absolutely. So, in the interest of time, what I'm going to do is, there's a ton of things that we can go and slice and dice in the journey. But a lot of startups, if I ask one question, like, what is the biggest challenge? You talk a lot of challenges from a business point of view, but if startups have to say something, most of the time they talk about hiring, finding talent is the real challenge. Mm-hmm. In your case, you have built these global companies, you have built wonderful products. Definitely it didn't happen without people, the people who supported your vision, people who contributed into the vision and take it to this level. So how did you begin with hiring talent and co-founders? And so talk a little bit about that.
Sure, I think I think the simple answer is I've sort of just relied on my networks, if you will. But oftentimes you realize, I mean, as you kind of go through life, you bump into people, and some of them just think alike or think in similar ways, or are a good fit. I think with Elance, I met Srini, who's also an IT grad, IT Madras, Chennai, and but we both loved entrepreneurship, got talking, and one thing led to another. The investors there were also a lot of other sort of IT grads and their friends. One of the investors in Elance then became my co-founder at Webaroo. The first person we hired at Elance was my classmate, Sanjay from Sanjay Narona from IT Bombay as well. Even at Webaroo, the first person we hired was another classmate. So these relationships, I mean, they thrive because there's a trusted base, right? Meaning even when you are fighting and debating and pushing really hard, at least you know that you trust the other person and you trust his judgment even when they are disagreeing with you, which is very, very critical. You do want the conflict and you want the trust, and the both have to coexist. So I think, I mean, beyond that, I've always been a believer in sort of over hiring a little bit, by which I mean not the number of people so much as the quality. Okay, because even if a problem needs a very tactical skill set, sometimes when you hire somebody who can do much more, they actually contribute much more and either do other things or just expand the scope of the opportunity. Also versatile, flexible people. I think especially in early stages of startups, I mean, everything is in flux, right? What the company is focused on what the team is doing, the roles and responsibilities, everything is in flux. And if the person is sort of rigid, saying, "Oh, wait a minute, you said this yesterday, and now you're changing it," it's really hard because that adds too much friction. You just want people to, I think a good analogy I've heard is, stages of company growth need different profiles of people. So it's sort of the commando, military, and police is the analogy. So just if you can get commando type people, don't have a lot of baggage, very flexible, can do a lot of things that makes a huge difference. So yeah, I think people. I think then also the other thing I'll say is, there's a certain now I've spent half my life growing up in India, half my life in the Valley. There's a lot of differences I find, right? So it's kind of the culture is a little different as well, right? So I think I find now, of course, and it's not even people. I think it's just a mindset, because clearly Indians are doing exceptionally well in the Valley, right? And then you have the same people. There's no difference really, and yet companies have very different cultures and behave in different ways. I'll give you a simple example. Like even so in Webaroo, right, which is right in Mumbai. You have all these fresh young kids coming out of school, and they come in and you talk to them, and they, you ask them a question or you say something and say, yes sir, great, good idea, yes sir, and so on. So I've instituted a no sir culture, right, which is like, I'm going to get more angry if you agree with me than what you do, then instead of doing what you think is right, okay? Because I think, see, in our culture, everybody grows up being deferential and reverential to in the house, in school, right? And then in work, it's exactly the wrong thing. You want people to think and to do what they believe is right. And innovation requires, okay, it requires people to think differently. Okay, the last thing you want is everybody following the boss, because then outliers are some fantastic stories where the plane is crashing and the co-pilot won't tell the pilot that we're about to hit a mountain because he may feel offended. Okay, you exactly don't want that. I mean, that's how ideas die, or people are afraid to offend other people. Okay, even somebody will come to me and say, "Oh, that person did this, and I don't like it." I'm like, "Okay, did you talk to that person?" It's like, "No, why don't you tell them?" I'm like, "No, why don't you tell them?" Right? I think again, this is one important sort of unlearning that the Indian conditioning has done. I'm generalizing a little bit, right? But I think you sort of you maintain appearances, you maintain faces. If you're not happy with somebody, you say, "Okay, I'll bite my tongue, I'll hold on to it until it festers," and then in classic Angry and Mad, so many Bollywood movies have been made around this, right? The guy explodes and goes and kills everybody or hurts, and then a lot of damage is done. When, like, guess what, like right in the beginning, if it's bad idea, I don't like it. And it's actually very interesting, right? My kids growing up in the Valley, like right from kindergarten, right, when they're like 2 or 3 years old, they're taught, right? So somebody pushes them, what are they supposed to do, right? And this is something it took me a long time to realize what they're saying. And he said, they teach the kids, you look back at the person straight in the eye and tell them, "Hey, I didn't like it," okay? And I've seen my daughter do it, and the other kid first gets stunned and then says sorry, and then they start playing again, end of conversation, okay? And just something that's simple out here, it's like, no, if I say that, the guy will get offended, and then it festers, and it creates a lot of things. So I think one thing we don't, there's many strong things, great things about our culture, but the one thing that's not good about, okay, conflict resolution, disagreeing without fighting, depersonalizing the issue, right? Again, they say, like in parenting class, I learned this in the Valley as well, right? You never tell a kid who's misbehaving that, you're a bad boy or a bad girl, okay? What you say is, bad job, but you're a good kid who's capable of doing a good job. Right? So the moment you depersonalize, the behavioral dynamic changes completely. So as in HR situations, I have so many conversations with people, right, saying, and I have to be very, very careful. Look, you're capable of doing so much better, but this is terrible, okay? How are you going to fix it? And the conversation is very different from, "You're bad," okay? So I think it just, these awareness.
So you're not making it personal. You are making it like, okay, you are a good person. You encourage him with good behavior, but maybe the act was bad, and if you could recover from that one.
Yeah. So in the Valley, it's very, very common. Okay, people say that's the stupidest idea I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Okay, the idea was stupid, not the person. And by the way, forget anybody telling me. I might also say, oh, I have this stupid idea. I don't know if it'll work or not. So I'm just already admitting, right, that maybe something like this would work. But out of the 10 stupid ideas, 1 or 2 might be feasible, and then it leads to some interesting things. Okay, so just understanding, okay, there's a lot of value in disputes, in conflicts, in stupidity. There's a lot of nuggets hidden in those things, and I think so when you talk about hiring, right, it's not like just the person and the skill set. It's also the culture that you create in the company, the how you behave, because everybody looks at that and they behave in the same way. And now people just know. I mean, they don't come to me unless they've actually tried to solve it first by themselves, and half the time the issues are resolved right then and there, kind of thing. So I think it's the hiring is as important as culture is, and just creating the right environment where suddenly, I found the stereotypical ID grads were